What's going on, everybody? Shonen Express here, coming to you with another letter to home. This time, we're going to be looking at Jiraiya. And just so you know, as I'm trying to get better with the spoiler warnings, there will be some major spoilers for Naruto in this video. So if that's something you want to avoid, click off this video. And if you ever do read Naruto, if you finish reading Naruto, come on back and look at this video about Jiraiya. So, without messing around too much longer, let's just get into it. So, for those of you who don't know, Jiraiya is my favorite character in all of Naruto. And so, I've wanted to do a video about him for a while, but I actually struggled finding what his question was. Just for those of you who are unaware, how I kind of like to structure these videos is I like to find a prominent question, if not the prominent question, that a character poses to his world or her world, and answer, and what their answer to that question is, and then see if we can apply that question and answer even out into our real world. And so, I wanted to do Jiraiya, but I had a hard time finding this question, but I think I have found it. And the question I think Jiraiya asks of the world of Naruto is, what does it mean to be strong? Or, put another way, what makes someone strong? And how I found this question actually was by looking at his answer. So we actually get Jiraiya's answer to this question really early on in the series. And his answer he tells to Orochimaru in their first fight during the Tsunade retrieval arc. And his answer is, those who are strong endure. So endurance or perseverance is the number one trait that makes someone strong. And as he puts it, it's having the guts to never give up. So, now that I've stated the question that I think Jiraiya asks of his world, I should probably justify why I think this is the question and answer and the main moral that Jiraiya leaves us with throughout the story of Naruto. And I think that we see an abundance of Jiraiya valuing endurance and perseverance and the guts to never give up throughout the series. But I think there are three categories that we see Jiraiya really get involved in showing how important endurance and perseverance are. And that is in his friendships, in his love relationships, and in the legacy that he leaves behind. So I want to look at all three of these categories and kind of examine them and break them down. And so the first one I want to start with is friendship. And specifically, we see him do this in the way that he interacts with Orochimaru. So first, we get a flashback in Naruto where we see once Orochimaru leaves the village, Jiraiya is presumably the only one to chase him down in the forest there, try to get him back. Similar to how Naruto chased after Sasuke at the end of part 1 of the series, right? We see Jiraiya has chased him down and tries to get him back. Now, you could say, well, he didn't really endure or persevere in this pursuit because he tells Naruto to give up. And he does tell Naruto to give up on Sasuke, and it's because of who Orochimaru is and his struggle there. But he does this to kind of save Naruto from the pain of watching a friend go away like he has and struggling with something. Because I would like to argue that Jiraiya never gave up on bringing Orochimaru back, on reforming Orochimaru. He always kept tabs on him. In fact, it's my opinion, and I think pretty well stated, that one of the reasons Jiraiya's specialty is infiltration and intelligence gathering is because he spent years tracking Orochimaru and spying on his movements to keep tabs on his old friend. One, sure, so that he wouldn't hurt the village, but two, so that he could keep tabs on him and eventually, maybe, be able to bring him back to the village in confidence. This whole relationship that he has with Orochimaru shows that in his friendships, in these friendship relationships, specifically, even when Orochimaru, the friend, is not acting good to him, he endures through that. He goes to find Orochimaru, and even in that speech that I already showed on screen earlier, I'll probably throw it back up here anyway, but that he has at the beginning, or, in the Tsunade retrieval arc with Orochimaru, he's still trying to reform the way that Orochimaru thinks about the world so that he can come back. He still cares for his friend. and has endured a lifetime of chasing Orochimaru to no avail, but that endurance is important to him. So now that we looked at Orochimaru and the friendship aspect of Jiraiya's endurance, let's take a look at the love aspect of Jiraiya's endurance. And so I'm going to focus mainly, again, on a single person for this section, and that person is Tsunade, because I believe that it is Tsunade who Jiraiya has loved for his whole life. So, I mean, we see, even when they're kids, that he obviously has like a little bit of a crush on Tsunade from the beginning, but this crush develops into a deep relationship throughout the series, and I think that that's pretty clear to see. Now, Jiraiya was, like, one of his main quirks is that he's, like, pervy, so it's a little harder to tell and a little more nuanced about this, but I think that despite his general perviness, it was Tsunade who he always loved and always went after. And so his endurance for years, despite Tsunade, being in love with Dan and having that relationship, and even after Dan passes away, he doesn't make any kind of move. His patient endurance that was, never proved fruitful, right? Tsunade never reciprocated his feelings, to his dying day. This persistence, though, was still important to him in this aspect of his life. It was important to him to be persistent in caring for and loving Tsunade, even if that was not reciprocated, again showing that endurance is important to him. This brings us to the final aspect of what I think illustrates how important endurance is and perseverance is for Jiraiya. And that is his legacy, right? So Jiraiya, first of all, when he was younger and first went to Mount Myoiboku with the Toads and trained with them, the old Toad Sage gave him a prophecy, and the Toad Sage prophecies were known to come true. But the Toad Sage gave him a prophecy that he would train a great leader of the shinobi world, and that it was going to be up to him. He was going to have to make a crucial choice, whether that leader would bring ruin to the world or would save the world, and that the choice was going to be up to Jiraiya, and that it would be one of Jiraiya's students, rather. So, with this prophecy in mind, Jiraiya obviously would, find value in leaving a legacy, in training someone, because that was the whole prophecy. That was the whole meaning of his life, according to this prophecy. And so he did take on students. And so I want to talk about all three of the students that Jiraiya trained and how we see his endurance play out there. So the first student he found was Nagato, right? And really all three of the Rain Village kids, but specifically Nagato. And he found, he took an interest in Nagato's Rinnegan, right? Nagato had the Rinnegan, and he was like, of course, this child who has these legendary eyes, he's going to be the child of prophecy, right? He's going to be the guy I train who's going to save the world. And as he trains Nagato, he, years later, hears that Nagato had died, and so he goes, okay, well, that's not the child of prophecy. But because he wasn't very emotionally involved, he could easily, move on and train another, and that's when he found Minato, and, Minato became his student. So Minato was also extremely gifted, was trained extremely easily, and Jiraiya goes, well, of course, this is the child of prophecy, but Minato died prematurely. Just probably relatively soon after becoming Hokage, Minato passed away. And this was troubling, as Minato's son Naruto was left behind. This would have caused probably a lot of pain for Jiraiya, to see a student that he really loved die, and giving up would be an appropriate answer. Not training anybody, just living out the rest of his life normally would be an appropriate answer, but he doesn't do that, because endurance is important. And he finally trains Naruto. And while he trains Naruto, he imparts the dream that he wants of a world that doesn't have fighting, that people don't have to fight and die in wars for. He imparts that dream to Naruto because he believes Naruto will be the child of prophecy. Even after he meets Nagato, he still believes that Naruto will be the child of prophecy. But it wavers a little bit until the end of the fight, where we see him leave that message for Naruto. He gets back up after almost dying, and writes one last message to Naruto, and that, he believes as he dies, was the fateful choice that he had to make between the disciple that would destroy the world and the one that would heal the world. And he chose Naruto, who would heal the world. And so Jiraiya endured, even past the point that he should have died in that fight, to leave the legacy that would ultimately benefit and heal the world. And so he died valuing endurance so much and impressing that upon Naruto as he trained him as well. So now that we've seen that Jiraiya definitely values endurance and perseverance and the will to never give up, we need to figure out if he's right about it. So according to the world of Naruto, is Jiraiya right? Are the decisions that he made the correct decisions for the world that he lives in? And I think that the answer is a resounding yes. He was correct. And so I want to use those three categories that I brought up earlier to show that Jiraiya was actually right. At the end of the day, Orochimaru, his friend, did return to the Leaf Village. Now, obviously not very publicly, because, he did some horrific things, but he was reformed, and he did return and support the village during the next generation, So his friend did come back. In the love category, Tsunade did love him, and I think that's clear through several panels. The one where, she cries after hearing he's died, and her little hesitation when she talks to Shizune about if he will return. I think that this makes it clear that Tsunade loved him as well. And so that's true. And then in the legacy category, we can see most clearly that he was absolutely correct. His message that he sent back to the Leaf Village that Naruto was able to help decode ended up giving the Leaf Village a great amount of information on how to fight pain, and allowed the damages that pain would eventually cause to be much less than it could have been. Along with that, his impressing upon Naruto to do the right thing and to endure and push past his limits would allow Naruto to gain the abilities to fend off pain, and not only that, but to become Hokage and see a world that would be rid of most major conflicts. And that's a feat that Jiraiya would have absolutely wished for. All of these things together makes it extremely clear that Jiraiya made the right choice. But one of the things that I find really interesting about Jiraiya's character, and really sad, to be honest with you, is that Jiraiya didn't live long enough to see any of these three things come to fruition. Jiraiya died with his best friend being, actually at that point he thought he was dead, but he died with his best friend, being an enemy of the village. He died with his lover, the love of his life, not acknowledging his feelings or reciprocating them at all. And he died not knowing whether Naruto would truly grow up to do the things that were set before him in the prophecy. He didn't know any of this stuff, but he died so confident that he had made the right choice. That was what allowed Jiraiya to die without holding back, and to put his all into the decision to make Naruto the child of prophecy. And so all of this together makes it abundantly clear to me that Jiraiya absolutely made the right decision for his world. So can this moral, enduring and having the guts to never give up, can that moral be translated into our real world? I'm sure you all know by now that my answer is an obvious yes. Endurance is one of the strongest character traits that a person can have, in my opinion, and I would argue in Jiraiya's opinion. We need to learn how to endure, and I think there's no clearer example for us living in our time in 2021 right now than this pandemic that's been going on around the world. We've all had to learn how to endure without seeing people that we love, or doing some things that are comforting and normal for us. We've had to learn how to endure in small ways, and I think that that's actually made us better people. There are countless examples of people, both in fiction and in real life, that their endurance dramatically changed how the whole history played out, right? I think about Winston Churchill has that famous quote where he says, "We will never surrender." Talking about the Nazis, obviously. This is a time in his country where in World War II, it was looking bleak. And had Churchill not decided to endure, to persevere, to have the guts to never give up, we may be looking at a very different world now than the one that we live in. Obviously, even beyond that, there's that very famous, inspirational quote from the Rocky movies where he says, "It's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep standing up." And this is true about life. There's a ton of struggles. There's a ton of things to be scared about and worry about and feel down about in life. But it's those who have the strength and the courage to stand up. Those are the people that are truly strong. And I think that Jiraiya illustrates this perfectly. But if we left it there, it would be a good message, but it wouldn't be the whole message that Jiraiya gives us. Because I think the last part is important. And it's this last panel that I had up on the screen before. I'll put it back up here again. This quote by Jiraiya, I think, sums up a lot of his life, where he says, essentially, that we have to keep our emotions in check and serve as an example for the next generation. Everything we do right now will be looked at by other generations before us, by our children, by their children. And so, like Jiraiya, we need to set an example that what makes someone truly strong is having the guts to never give up. Thanks so much for watching this video. I love making these letter to home videos, and I definitely love Jiraiya. As I said, he's one of my favorite characters, so I was super excited to do this video. So I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I bring you videos like this, every once in a while, every couple weeks or so. And I love to keep doing that. If you have any suggestions for characters you'd like to see in a letter to home video, please leave it down in the comment section. I'd love to check that out. And I might not even know the character, but I'd love to kind of look into which you guys are interested in. So definitely leave that down there too, as well as any discussion that you'd like to have. But that's all I got for you guys in this video. So this is Shonen Express signing off.